Ashley. Give her a big round of applause. That was awesome to hear so many stories. And you got to think to yourselves, oh, we'll leave that up there. We'll leave that. You got to think to yourselves, you know, the relationships you have are what put you in this room. Some of you I met recently. Some of you have met other people in the room. There's different things that have brought you here, and it all comes back again to relationships. So we'll get ready to have the next speaker come up. I'm going to pass the microphone over to Jesse real quick.
All right, so this next speaker, we all know this individual, okay? And so, great human being to be connected with. He's typically the reason why we're all here, right? We wouldn't even be here without him. So, this man is a great leader, successful entrepreneur, husband, father, award-winning speaker, soon to be author. Please welcome to the stage, Matthew Boyer!
That song. I'm getting in a hurry like everybody else talking. So good to be back up here. It's been a while. That was a weird transition with doing the MC stuff. So I'm back up here now to kind of cap everything off today and to kind of finalize this. And I want to start by asking you guys, we've talked about imposter syndrome, talked about relationships. We've talked about friends, family, being vulnerable, confidence. We've covered about every aspect, I would think, except fear. And I would say that fear is a big part of all of those. I would say fear brings part of it on. So kind of look around your table, raise your hand if you want, but how many of you could say you felt afraid? There we go. And I'm not talking a chair moves behind you and you think you've seen a ghost. You might know a guy that happened to recently. But I'm talking about fear to perform, fear to be in front of people. I think everything that we've went over today and every speaker that's been up here has given us examples to help us conquer fear in one way or another without really labeling it fear. But if you're having imposter syndrome, wouldn't it be easy to say that you're afraid? Maybe that's your mind playing tricks on you. Last night, I didn't get a wink of sleep. All night. No one's going to show. Why am I even having this? I can't believe I did this. This is stupid. This is going to look dumb. I mean, I beat myself up. Yesterday into last night, I honestly don't think I slept at all. I remember one point getting up to help the dog with its collar because I was afraid. I was nervous. And I was letting that doubt creep in. See, today, each of the speakers and myself are going to kind of take you through the path and the things that we've done to help with that fear. Everybody shared some stories, different things of their lives, whether it was in childhood, whether it was now, whether there's maybe something they're afraid of later. So I want to kind of take you guys through that and show you how, through the Tell, Show, Do, which you can see here by my soon-to-come-out book, is the process. I overcame fear. Most people would see me up on stage and say, there's no way you were deathly afraid to go out around people. There's no way that you were extremely shy. There's no way you've had anxiety over things where you had to perform. A school play, martial arts tournament, even things as simple as getting up to sharpen my pencil in class. But I was crippled by it. Anyone I went to school with would tell you, they could probably tell you, okay, I seen Matt in class. Is that no one could ever tell you about seeing me at a party? So I never went to one, went to Taekwondo. No one could ever tell you about seeing me at a social event because I was working on my car. I was doing things that limited my exposure to those things because they scared me. And all it took is one excuse, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Pulled up in front of a house one night. There was a fight going on out front. It was a house party. Someone yelled, hey, he's a black belt. I was like, well, that's a good reason. Let's go. Got in the car and drove off. Till this day, you can ask Casey, if we've got plans that involve large groups, I will still try to talk myself out of it. No, the dog needs a bath, or, oh, but there's this great commercial going to be on tonight, or it is whatever it is. I'm coming down with a fever. I don't feel good. It's something. And all I got to do is say I don't feel good. She's like, yep, we've got plans this weekend. That's about right. So I want to take you down this path with me. When I was in middle school, my parents separated. When they divorced, it was a weird situation. My mother moved into the St. Louis County to my grandfather's house, not her father's, my dad's grandfather. And I stayed with my dad. Said she needed the space, and he had time to mentally decompress My mother and her family all suffered from schizophrenia, bipolar, manic depressive, and she needed that time alone. So I honored Dad, that's fine. I was a mama's boy, but I was going to stay with Dad. What I did know is Dad couldn't cook. Now, I struggled with anxiety, struggled with meeting people, and I quickly found out that I ate as my stress relief. Well, this became really apparent when Dad and I could only eat fast food. I mean, he couldn't. We sat down one night to eat a roast because we vowed that we both need to get healthier. We were going to eat. He made a roast. We're cutting on it. Finally cut through it. We're sitting there chewing it and chewing it and chewing it. And he's like, all right, so where do you want to go eat? And it was like I think it was like the next night. We were at Taekwondo. We were somewhere. Someone asked my dad, so how much water do you put in it? And he goes, water? So now that I learned how to make a roast, that kind of answered why it was so chewy. We had barbecue. I believe he gave a piece to the dog. Dog wouldn't eat it. It was bad. So we ate out all the time. So amongst being shy and being crippled by fear to meet people, I gained a lot of weight. My instructor used to laugh. When I turned 15, right before I was 16, I was 5'3", maybe 5'4" at the right 7-Eleven, and I was 160, 170 pounds, somewhere in there. Will you go put that picture up? So a lot of people don't believe it. That was me right before getting my driver's permit. We were at the James Dean Run in Indiana, and that was the year before, because the following year I actually got to drive up there. That's where I learned to parallel park. So on top of being shy, now I had a weight problem. And a lot of people had tried to help me out. Oh, you look really good now that you're filling out. You're getting to be a big boy. And it was like, thanks. Like, I know that my grandmaster at Taekwondo, he was trying to be helpful and supportive, but that was like always great. He patted me on the shoulder. Oh, getting bigger. Thanks. It was weird. Remember, my mom took me to JCPenney's, and we were looking at clothes. I was getting ready to go into high school, and I needed khakis. I had told my parents I wanted to go to a Catholic high school. And they said, oh, come over here to the Husky department. My mom was like, the Husky department? I'm like, do we point? Do we have to? That's a hard age. Like, quit yelling Husky. But the clothes fit. And I remember I would get up in the morning, and I've talked about this to some people, but I would stand. There were mirrors in my parents' basement. Now, this is a typical 80s basement. Had the mirrors, they had like a gold something on them. I don't know how to explain it other than that. People are nodding their heads. They were all glued to the wall, and I'm going to burn the house down when my parents pass because I'm not going to tear it off. It's still there. But I would stand there, and there was a couple mirrors were off. They'd make you look heavier. Some make you look skinnier. So I'd stand in front of the skinny ones that weren't quite lined up, and I would turn. And I'd turn each direction. I'd change clothes. I'd wear a belt, change my polo shirt. I'd tuck it in. I'd untuck it. Back then, I didn't realize that pleats made you look heavier, so I kept buying pleated pants, which didn't help. But my parents got me my Letterman's jacket. See, my parents came up in post-Depression era households where they didn't get anything like that. My mother was one of 6. My grandparents didn't have the money for it. My grandfather on my dad's side didn't believe in it. He was of Depression era. He wouldn't spend money on things like a Letterman's jacket for my dad when he was in high school. Wouldn't let him buy a car when he wanted to. So my parents got me the coat, even though I didn't do any school sports. When I had the coat on, I felt fit. When you go back and look at movies from that era, the Letterman's jacket was worn by the jock, the cool kid, the popular guy, the one that had the girl, the one that had the cool car. Every one of my heroes back then wore a Letterman jacket. So I had the coat. Now, we know we live in Missouri. The weather fluctuates day to day. It's incredible. You never know. When Ashley asked a question about what he asked in Missouri, I started yelling out weather, because that's our big question. I would wear the coat every day of the week. I would sit in school because the coat protected me. I felt fit. I felt like maybe I belonged. Even though I didn't play a sport, didn't have a letter on it, wasn't going to get a letter, wasn't interested in playing sports. And I would sit there in class, and I would sweat. And I would want to take the coat off. But you're sitting in one of those little high school desks. How are you going to take your coat off? Well, you're going to make a scene. You're going to move around. Well, what's that going to do? It's get somebody to point out, hey, look, fat kid's moving. Or I'd have to get up, go sharpen my pencil. Well, I didn't want them to see me, so I'd just sit there and write till it just went dead. I was absolutely fearful. Flash forward through high school. I got a little taller. I lost a little bit of weight. I decided to start just doing chicken. when my dad took me places because he did not learn to cook. He's 82 now. He still has not learned how to cook at all. It's scary. But I decided getting out of high school, I had to meet people. I knew my best friend and I would sit at his house and watch TV and avoid people as much as possible. And I knew that's not how I wanted to live. So I decided I was going to break that habit. I didn't know how. There wasn't a lot of personal development books back then. There might have been, but I had never read one. I didn't get my first personal development book till I was probably 23. It was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I didn't read it till I was 29, and then was really upset with myself for not reading it for so many years. So I went up to Mid-Rivers Mall. That was a popular shopping mall at the time. I walked through the mall until I found a store that scared the ever-loving daylights out of me. Went to American Eagle. All the pretty people were at American Eagle. There were 3 people I was in school with that would not have spoke to me if I was on fire. And they're shopping. I stood around out front, hem and hawed. I moved. Finally, I went in. Told myself, I'm going to go in. They're not going to hire me, though. Nope, got hired. They actually were looking for someone that had no work experience, had never worked a register, and was completely new they could teach. So my plan to, well, I'll go apply, but I won't get the job, backfired on me. What I didn't know was how this was going to affect me later on. See, the first day we went in, we walked through, they gave everybody a quick little tour. I'd seen there's this back room where they fold the jeans. I was like, ooh, that's perfect. There's one person back there. Nobody talked to him. Like, yeah, this will be my out. I'll fold the jeans. And then they informed us that that lady was 40 years old. She had been there for 10 years and wasn't going to go anywhere. I was like, okay. So they pull us in for a huddle. First boss, first huddle at a real job. She goes, you know what I want you to do? I want you to work the front door. Huh? The look on my face had to be priceless because if I remember right, she giggled. She goes, yeah, we're rolling out a new cologne fragrance for American Eagle. We want you to stop everybody that comes through the door, offer them the fragrance. This is going to be your kiosk. Your job is to keep everything situated and organized in the kiosk and talk to customers and so on. We're going to track your numbers. Literally, I think in my brain, I can still see it now, me running, screaming from the mall. It didn't happen because I wasn't going to chicken out. Even though I was anxious and I was nervous, I wasn't a punk and I wasn't going to run away. Especially run screaming from a store full of ladies that I can't stand at the door. So I had to stop every customer that came in. I still remember the quote fully till this day. Would you like to try our new fresh fragrance from American Eagle called Alive? Now, some of you I know are the right age that you did shop there back then and know exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't have to spritz anybody. I did it sometimes just to be annoying after the confidence started coming. I'd get a lot of palms to the face. Get a lot of no's, get lost. It was wild. Retail is wild. And I was only there 3 weeks before I switched to another job, which put me in front of people again. Now, I'm not going to say it's a Blues Brother movie type moment where the heavens light up and I did back handsprings across the store and I was cured. But I learned that to get better, I was going to have to keep doing it. I didn't have a choice. It was my job. I couldn't just go over and pick out jeans to sell. That was my task that day. I had to do that, and every day, because apparently she thought I did good at it. And I think they just enjoyed messing with me. So it started teaching and building what I now call the tell, show, do process. And I had no name for it then. I just knew if I wanted to get better at something, I had to do it. If I wanted to deal with angry customers, I had to go deal with angry customers. It was just something that was going to happen. It was going to keep happening. I didn't really have a choice. So later on, I've taken that tell, show, do, and when I opened my painting company, my martial arts school, both of them, I didn't have the money to promote. What am I going to do? The doors had only been open at Warrior Academy a couple weeks. I went to my instructor, my father. I said, hey, I'm not getting any students. What do? You open the doors, you sit there with the lights off, because that costs money, lights on, and they'll show up. They'll just walk in. I said, it is the first quarter of 2009. Nobody's spending money. Unemployment's through the roof. I knew very little about economics. I had no clue other than people were not spending. So this is where the tell method comes in. I decided I need to tell people what I do. I need to tell people about my school. Now, I had friends that had done this in a very obnoxious way. We would go places, they would just bring it up out of the blue. Hey, I got a black belt. People would be like, I asked if you wanted more bread. It was very awkward. It was very awkward to be their friend. You'd be there sitting with them. You're like, hey, I don't want spit on my hamburger. Would you stop? Go to restaurants, clothing stores. Ooh, drop my business card. I got a dojo. And I'm using martial arts because those were the couple guys back then, and I'm still friends with them that were the most obnoxious about it. When I opened a painting company, I knew I needed to tell people I had a painting company, but I didn't know how. So I was just going to tell them. I am an in-person person. I like to go inside at my bank. I like to go inside the gas station. I don't like to correspond in emails. If you get an email from me and it's well written, it came from Stacy or Casey. If you get sent like random words sent to you and no name at the bottom, it's a good chance it came from me. And they were telling me it looked bad when I sent it. So I go in places, and it was wild how characteristic people are. I'd come in, local gas station, we're painting a house down the street. I'd have painting shirt, painting hoodie, painting pants, paint on me. And this even still happens till today. People be like, hey, you got some paint on you. Oh, no way, really? Be like, yeah, I own Boyer Painting. We're down the street painting one of your neighbor's houses. We're kind of in the area. It's a new company. Oh, really? People would go in, hey, you know, my uncle was a painter, or my mom's looking for a painter, or you know what? The boss was in the other day. We need a painter here. And this sounds silly. It sounds cliche by like, oh, all I had to do was say it. It still happens. It still happens to this day. I go into a gas station. If I've got painting stuff on, someone will make a comment about it. You know, if I go in a martial arts hoodie, somebody will be like, yeah, I know karate. I trained with the Power Rangers. 2 weeks ago at Walmart, not lying. I pointed out that guy passed away. He was clueless. I was like, yeah, I don't think you were training with him last week, bro. People do it. We're very characteristic like that. People are going to say those things. So I would always act on those to tell them about my business, to tell them what we did. Honest to goodness, we'll go buy water for parades, for events and snacks. I don't care if it's Target, Walmart, Schnucks, wherever. They'll be like, thirsty? You know, I own a martial arts school down the street. We're having an event for kids. We're having a bunch of water and some giveaways this week. Wow, really? That's cool. You know, my uncle had his hands registered when he got his black belt. He was a lethal weapon. He fought in the kumite. And Brett's giggling because we hear this type of stuff all the time with martial arts. There's no hand registry, guys. Doesn't happen. And your uncle didn't fight in the kumite. It's just hilarious. But people, it starts a conversation. You bring up, oh, I have a martial arts school. We do this. You're telling people about your business. If you're not your biggest fan, why should anyone else be? If somebody sees you at the store and you're wearing your logo and something's mentioned about it, why not tell them? If you're in an event and someone brings up something that's relative to what you do, why not bring it up? Be like, oh, you know, I do that, or I work on that. It's a very simple policy of telling people. Now, the next part is show. When people hear show, there's really two levels to this. You've got to show people what you do, and you got to show people your business. It's two different things. Showing people what you do and who you are as a business is showing them your values. A good example of this for us was there was a youth program opened in Troy called The Key. This program is to house homeless teens that need life skills, learning how to adult. Basic skills that a lot of us have that they don't. I reached out to the two ladies in charge. I said, I'll paint it. Didn't have the money to paint it. Casey reminded me, again, back to that logical, emotional. I was like, no, I'm painting this. I want everybody to know. I want to help the community. Well, then I went up to walk the place. It was like 10,000 square foot. And I was like, oh, man, I really don't have the money to paint this. Then they brought in the school board, and they brought in the teens at the construction tech class, and they completely screwed up the paint job after I did it, so we had to go back and do it again. That was great. We've got a little plaque on the wall. It was a great way to give back and help a great program in the community. About 2 weeks after that, Casey sends me a text, says local bank needs a bid. Okay, cool, great, yeah, it's awesome. All right, they must have seen our vans, because it's right down the street from the Key. They must have seen our vans on there. So go in, give them a bid, $14,000, some change bid. Largest bid I'd wrote to date. When I was at that point, that was the most I'd ever put on it. We sat there at the house. I'm like, don't send it. Wait, don't send it. Don't send it. Don't send it. Because there's removing wallpapers, all this stuff. Everything could go sideways. Casey sent the bid, and they accepted. We were in there working on it on the final day, and this lady was standing behind me, and I had one headphone in. I popped it out, and I was just sitting there. And I hear her ask the person behind her, hey, where did we find these guys? I've never heard of them. And she goes, oh. And she named a name that was on the board for the key. And she goes, they told us that's who's getting this job. Now, we went on to do multiple branches of that bank. It ended up being a 6-figure relationship for us. All because they saw what we did, and our values matched their values, and they wanted to take care of us. So we showed them that we cared, and they showed us their thanks. We went on to do so many different projects locally, all over from just that job. After we painted the last Habitat house, which we donate to, I had several messages from people going, we love what you did with Habitat. We love the fact you took care of that house. I don't need anything painted now, but you're who we're calling. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Now, the second part of showing it is I find some people get caught up in the dollars on a bid or selling a customer. Whatever it is, however it fits with you. I would get opportunities to take on work for Boyer Painting where it was on a main thoroughfare, it was on a main street, main area in our town that I would get a lot of marketing value on. We just did this last week again. We'd make sure all the vans are there, crews are outside. If the sun was out, we'd put a tent up. Within a day or two, the phone would go off. People calling up and down the street all over town. So I would make sure to guarantee those jobs, I gave them a discount. I would know that we probably weren't going to make that front end profit on the job. We were going to break even. But the back end of the referrals and the fact that it was a week-long job, I've got 4 vans parked on the main thoroughfare in town being seen by everybody, was more valuable. There's a million stories like this. Michael Jordan's story with Nike. Less on the front, more on the back end. It's huge. Sometimes when you can get past that and show people your business. When you have that opportunity to show them not only who you are, but that you're here. There's probably a lot of people, even as well known as our businesses have gotten, that probably see us and go, oh, I've heard that name before. I'm going to call them. I need a painter. So it pays on the back end because we're showing them the business. Then the final part's the do part. A lot of people think this means do the work. Well, you got to think when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm assuming and taking into account that all of you are good at what you do. Everybody's here in this room because you have a decent business. You have a growing business. You have a good business that allows you to be here. Or you have a brand that you're building and you're good at what you do. So it's not really showing people that like you're the best. I use painting or martial arts as an example because that's my background. A lot of painters put up videos of cutting in lines or rolling a wall or I'm the fastest, I'm the best. They'll knock other people for charging more, whatever. It's doing the extra, doing the things that show those customers that you care. One of the funniest things that we got was we had a lady calling a job, needed the whole house painted, went over there with the crew, knocked out a great paint job. She was running a little late getting home. I was waiting to show her the house, collect payment, so I vacuumed the house. Everything. Vacuumed the whole thing. She called Casey, was like, I don't care what I need done, just send him over every week to vacuum. She didn't care about the paint job. She said that was the first time a man had vacuumed her house. She was thrilled that it was vacuumed. She's like, the lines are straight. We're like, oh, the paint job? No, the vacuuming. Like she didn't care. But the fact that we did the extra and that instead of standing out front while the guys had a cigarette or playing on my phone, I got out the vacuum, vacuumed it, cleaned it up. Because I like that when they come home. I like it when that customer walks in and goes, wow, the house really looks good. I enjoyed that. Several referrals came off that because we were showing the client that we'll do the extra, that we'll do the things that maybe the guy down the street's not going to do. Maybe they're a few dollars cheaper. Maybe their schedule's more open. Maybe they can come at a different time. Maybe they'll appease you and come at 9 a.m., not 7 like you want. There's so many different variables that could be there. But by us doing the extra stuff and going the extra mile, we prove to them that they made the right choice. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that every customer hears that and does it. No, a lot of customers pick who's the cheapest. They're going to pick whoever's cheap, whoever's quicker. It just depends on what they're looking for. There's numerous times we've heard numerous messages from people that have called, said, man, I wish we'd just went with you guys. You know, I've taken the time, tried to build the relationship, tried to do different things with the customers. But the ones that you do take on, or the ones that don't use you, they regret it. They realize down the road, man, I should have I should have done that differently. I should have picked this, or I should have went with them. It's huge because you're telling, showing, and doing. You're not just putting up an ad, we do this for $9.99 cheaper than the other guy. You're building value over time. With this model, I took Boyer Painting from, I was driving an Astrovan with expired tags and a magnet on the side of it with 3 employees painting on the weekend to honestly pay for their weed, to a 7-figure business in less than 18 months. And I didn't even really know I did it. We were just working, trying to make the schedules, make the customers happy, and build. And the next thing you know, sit down, looking at the numbers, going, wow, this is really on to something here. Scheduled out months in advance, hiring people left and right, so much work we couldn't see straight. And I continued to tell, show, and do with every customer. Till this day, I go in to bid a house, I will tell the customer how the process works with us. I will point out our social media, bring up things that we do in the community to show them who we are, and give examples of things that we've done to go the extra mile. Take the time to talk to them, take the time to break down our process so that if they do hire guy B, notice I didn't make them A, I made them B. They hired the B contractor. When they walk in and when they're done, they're going to think about it and go, you know what? That other guy said they did all this other stuff. Why didn't this one? People come into the martial arts school. I point out all the things we have to offer. Our amazing staff, our nice school, our expensive gear, the fact that we have a more flexible schedule. So if they do go to somewhere else, they're going to question that. They're going to say, well, that other place have like this other class, and why isn't there all the helpers? There were all these helpers all over that place. Because it's going to show them that we do the extra, and they're going to remember that. But it all comes back, like I started with getting the reps, getting in the repetitions, doing it over and over again. The first time you go to tell someone about your business or your brand or your product, you're going to fumble. You're going to mess it up. It's going to come out awkward. It's going to seem weird. It's going to seem insincere. You're not going to nail it on the first try, but you have to do it again. It all comes back to something all the speakers have covered today, and that is getting in the reps. Putting in the practice, building the relationships. If you're not meeting people at networking, you're not building those relationships, you don't have anyone to tell, show, and do. You can't just do this with your social media. This is how you do it in person. You can do all of these and implement all of these into your social media, but it's more authentic when you're doing it in person and when you're breaking that down. If you're at a networking event, instead of shaking their hand and telling them you're an agent or you're this or you're that, tell them what your company does. They're going to figure out what you do. They're going to understand if you tell them that I help people find great homes and find their forever home. They're going to say, oh, wow, you're a realtor. They're not going to be like, oh, you detail cars. They're going to know. You don't have to tell them. I'm a realtor and we're at the best office. I said that because Sarah left. But you have to do that. You have to point that thing out to people. It's how they're going to remember you and how you're going to build your brand. Those stories and those things are all about building the reps, getting it in over and over and not swaying from that, using every opportunity. Not too long ago, worked a late shift, came in, stopped at the gas station to grab some ice. Sure enough, you paint? I had paint all over me, had a painting shirt on, had a truck and trailer, it said Boyer Painting on it. I said, nope, not at all. We joked, we talked, 2 more people knew about my business that did not know that morning. Because that's how you tell. Now, they may look us up on social media, they may tell a friend, they may Google us. We're all of those places too. But again, it's always constantly getting in the reps, building that rep, building that rapport, and working through the kinks, building on that. So one of the big things I find when I talk about this is people think, well, I'm an introvert. I'm not really that outgoing. I can't do that. I can't say that, or I don't have those opportunities. You know, I just get up at home, I eat breakfast, I go to work, I'm behind my computer. I don't get out of the office much. You're already setting yourself up for failure. You're using the word I can't, or maybe they'll say, I'm going to try. So what I want you guys to do with me real quick, you know, different people have different ways of doing this. Some people like you to yell. Some people want you to get up. I've been to events where they want you to jump up at the table and yell hooray. And I mean, that makes it even worse for us that are not really extroverts, not really into that. So what I want everybody to do, I'm going to sit down for a second. I want everybody to lean into everybody at your table. I want you to take a breath. I want you to try to unbutton your coat. There we go. And I want you to just quietly say, I can. Just say, I can. You don't have to make excuses and let those excuses get in your way. And you don't have to yell them. You don't have to be over the top and wild about it. Everybody thinks with social media, you got to get the next viral clip. But all it starts with is, I can. So again, say it with everyone at your table, I can. See, it's not that hard to start and to change what you're going to do, to change your, you could say, characteristics or personality by stepping out of the way of yourself, not making those excuses, quietly whispering to yourself, I can. That's the difference between the person that goes out and makes it happen and those of us that see people set borders, set things in their way, and fail. Because here today, you said, I can. Those people are saying, I can't. So what I want to do is, as we wrap up today, I'm going to bring everybody up, go do a little closing thing with all the speakers. I want to invite you guys up for a group photo. I want you guys to get some photos from your speakers, whoever that you want to see today before you go. I don't want anyone to feel like they've got to rush out. And then I'm going to be in the back, and if anybody wants to talk about that process, I invite you to not only talk to me, but to talk to some of the other speakers. Ask them their stories. Ask them, tell them, share with them your stories of what you've been through. And maybe they have a solution. Maybe they have a scenario. Maybe they have something that they've been through that could change the way you look at it. I want to thank all you guys for coming today, being so attentive. This event, like I said, I tried to get my own way about 100 times last night. No sleep. Definitely going to sleep good tonight. But I want to thank you guys for making it a success, because not only did the speakers bring great things to the stage, and I wanted to point out, I did see everybody's topics, but we did not plan for so much of our stuff to overlap today. That's amazing. That is definitely something Stu and I talked about on the podcast the other day, but the way the messages overlapped and the way everything fell in was not planned. So I want anyone to think, well, they had a meeting and they had these Zoom calls and they, figured this all out. No, we discussed topics that I thought, okay, they'll all fit in the same room together, but I didn't think everything would overlay like they did today. So that was pretty awesome. I watched several of you guys coming off. You're like, oh, wait, did you know that you were going to say that? That's pretty cool. So I want to thank you guys again for being here today. I want you guys to give yourselves a big round of applause. And thank you for making our first event great. If I could get all the speakers to come back up, let's get a photo real quick.
You guys look great.
Awesome. And then I want to invite everybody else to come up. Let's do a big group photo with everybody that's here today. Sweet.